What lurks behind this unassuming storefronts in Cleveland, Ohio? It's the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. Welcome back to the Buckland Museum Frankenstein Radio Control Room, broadcasting out of a Gothic tower overlooking the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft in the west side of Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Stephen Intermill, and I operate the museum with my wife Jillian and in partner with our dear friend Tony Rotunda. Let's see, what have I been up to? A lot of stuff. Don't really feel like talking about it. But tonight we're going to be speaking with Timothy Shaw, a writer, speaker, psychic medium, and collector of unique objects. I met Tim shortly after we opened in our first location, so about 3 years ago, and he came to visit this past summer as well. He knew our founder, Dr. Raymond Buckland. He's got a great attitude on life. Welcome, Tim. I have a question for you right out of the gate. What's it like to be retired?
Oh, you know what? I can't say I'm retired because I am busier now than I ever was when I was working. I have a chance to go and do so much right now, and the opportunities have just presented itself tenfold. I shouldn't say I work. I volunteer at a local cable studio where I produce and direct and crew. I'm storyboarding right now a 6-episode series for them that I'll put on YouTube for everybody to enjoy. I'm still collecting. I'm still speaking. I just moved into a new house. I name it. You name it. I got projects all over the place, Steve. I got projects all over. You can't slow me down. You can't.
So, tell me. So, first and foremost, I guess you're a psychic medium, and you met our founder, Dr. Raymond Buckland, in Lilydale, which is a place that you're known for hanging out. Can you kind of tell us about your the day that you met him?
You know, I had read a lot of Ray's books. And one day I'm sitting on the porch of the Maplewood Hotel. It's where the elite meet. Believe me, that's about the best way I can describe it. And a little guy, a little short, skinny guy with a gray beard and this white shock of hair comes kind of wandering over, and he sat next to me. And we struck up a conversation. And I noticed his accent. And I asked him about, where he was from. He's telling me. I was curious about, if he had experienced like the Blitz or anything in England and during World War II. And when he was a kid, he was telling me about a house across the street that burned. So, he goes, "Oh, I got a class." So I just thought maybe he's either taking a class or he's teaching a class. That's how stupid I was. He got up, walks away. Guy walks up to me, goes, "Dude, do you know who that was?" I go, "Who?" He goes, "That's Raymond Buckland." I go, No, it wasn't. Sure it was. And you know what? I got to tell you, out of all the influences in my life, and I've had a lot of great teachers, really, I've had great teachers. Raymond was one of I will say, the shining stars in my life when it comes to my development, my looking at the way I look at things. I used to be a hardcore modern spiritualist. You don't use tools, you don't use this, you don't use that. You got a strict dogma. And speaking with Raymond over the years and getting a chance to, listen to his lectures, I started realizing there was so much more to life. And the rest is history. So now I kind of, even though I identify with myself with, the spiritualist religion, I'm more eclectic, just like Ray was. Ray had a thirst for knowledge. If the one thing I always remember about him, we'd be sitting there, and all of a sudden we'd be sitting on the Maplewood Hotel, the porch, and in comes this black Corvette right into the parking lot. And all these women, young, old, middle-aged, they would go and they'd be like, "Who is that?" And Raymond would get out and he'd have that big smile. He had a signature smile, and they just like you could just see him like closing in on him. He was something. He was a great guy. I miss him. Here, a matter of fact, I showed you a little earlier, but this is one of my favorite pictures uh, of Ray and I, and he autographed it for me. And this was at a talk we both did at the Knickerbocker Hotel in Pennsylvania. And I just, I'm just so thankful that I got a chance to have him autograph that, because that's probably one of my most prized possessions. I just loved, knowing that guy. And you know what, people don't realize what a humble man he was. Just,
Yeah.
for the most part, we never really talked about, unless I went to his lecture or took a class with him or something. He never really, with me, we never really talked about metaphysical subjects where a lot of people would just zoom in on them. And we talked about life in general and stuff going on. And, I think that was the greatest thing in the world. And I was able to get 2 interviews when I had a radio show, one on CBS and the other one was on internet. And I was able to get the 2 interviews with him before he passed on, and those are cherished. Those are just cherished memories. So I was blessed to know him. He was just an amazing. And Steve, I'm blessed to know you, dude, because I got to tell you right off the bat, and don't give me that eye roll bullshit. I know better than that. You have done an unbelievable job as a curator of that museum. That museum in Cleveland, if you people have not been there, you guys really got to go. I walked in there when it was at the old place and went, "Oh, holy cow." I mean, it was just like breathtaking. And that was just this little tiny place when I saw it.
Yeah, it was just a small little room off the side of my friend's record shop.
And now I walked in there last year. I was like, the drool was coming off of each side of my lips. I just walked through there and it was mind blowing. It's one of those places for me. It's like Mecca. It's like going to the Holy Land, and I get a chance to get in there, and I get a chance to see some of his collection. And I've seen what you've done with the museum itself. You've done a great job, and people need to be out there to see this. People need to come to Cleveland to see that. And I'm 3 hours away, roughly. And it's for me, the 6-hour round trip is time well spent.
That's super sweet. I appreciate that. It's not for everyone, but it's how do I really put it? It's really a pleasure to be able to share it with the world.
And I'm happy that Ray actually got a chance to see the original place, and that he gave you his blessing to do this.
Yeah.
That, to me, that speaks volumes. That just speaks volumes, because here's a guy that, love him or hate him, I got to tell you what, he was a mover and shaker in this field. And boy, I'll tell you what, and if he didn't like something, he'd tell you. And that's what I love him. And for him to do that, that was great. And he was, and I know he was up there in age and he had some health problems, but he was taken way too early. I would have liked to have seen him go to about 99.9,
Yeah, I agree. He was a very unique, interesting individual. And it's really it's a lot of fun to share his stuff, and just his story. So we have some comments here. Our friend Kelvin Frazier says, "Good evening." I imagine Kelvin, he'd probably say it more like "Good evening." Our buddy Andrew Kirshner saying, "Hey, buddy, it's crazy how hard Steven and Jillian work. Cheers." Some days I work hard, but other days
you work. Don't give me that. You work hard in that museum.
Chris Ciesla says, "Hey guys."
Hey, Chris. He's from my neck of the woods.
Is he? Awesome. Hey, Chris, you got to come visit sometime. And then we have Yassine Laraki says, "I just got here. What we talking about, guys? We are talking about witchcraft. And, actually, we're talking about spirit collecting, right? Or collecting unique objects. And there's one of them. Can you tell us a little bit about this?" What do you have?
This is Sadie. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Sadie. Sadie came from the haunted Bergen house in Bergen, New York. And paranormal investigators there have like gotten all these crazy recordings when they come up and they put their recording, their devices, their audio devices next to the doll. And they've actually got video of the arm moving, which, there's not jointed or nothing. And I got to tell you, people like freak out with her. And
Yeah, could you kind of zoom in a little bit? I want a really good look at her face there. Oh, geez.
I think she's sweet myself. I love her. I really do. And what's neat about it is Sadie, the owner, Kathy, actually asked me if I wanted this, and she was going to get rid of it because it was freaking out her granddaughter. And she asked me if I wanted it, and we were filming. I was doing camera work for a internet show. God, I've done so much within these walls on Video Network, and so she asked me, the host said, "Hey, ask Tim if he wants the doll." I said, "I'll take it. I'll take it." So about 6 months later, she said to me, she goes, "Is the doll Sadie giving you any kind of problems?" I said, "Absolutely no, absolutely not." I said, "But I love the doll." And the day that she gave me this, a psychic in Oklahoma called up a friend of mine who was on site and said, "Listen, the doll, I'm getting this weird vibe. The doll is afraid." And I'm like, "Well, the doll's coming home with me, whether she's afraid or not." And it was funny that night because about 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, and this place, it's right on the edge of a primordial swamp here in New York State. It's all farmland. There's no lights. So I went and I took her and I got her seat belted in next to me in the front, the front of my truck. And her head had moved a little bit. I must have put it in sideways. I caught the light just right. And I looked down. I went like this: "Sadie, you make a noise, you move, you're going right out that friggin' window. I'm telling you that right now." But I don't think I have a problem with anything like this. And a lot of people, when they get haunted objects, they get a lot of problems that are associated with them. I don't get it so much first of all, Sadie has gone more places with me when I'm on my tours, when I'm on the circuit, when I'm on my speaking circuit, than my wife does, So, I don't have a problem. I think she likes going, with me. Funny story. We were going up through. I had to get to Canada. I did 3 events up in Canada last year, and one of the events I had to do in Flint, Michigan. So I had to drive through Canada. So I'm coming up into the Canadian border, and the agent over there goes, "Got anything to declare?" I said, "No, well," I said, "I'll be honest with you. The only thing I have in the car, I have haunted objects. I'm going up this, I'm going to Flint to speak." He looks at me. He's a younger guy. He looks at me. He goes, "In this car?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got him in the car." I said, "I got him in the back. If you pull me over," I said, "I got Ouija boards and all sorts of." Have a good day. Coming back from Flint. Now, one of the bridges, and I won't mention which one, is notorious for being tough, you know. And I came through, and I'm cruising through, and I'm going up, and I got my ID all set to go, and I pull up, and the guy goes, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "I'm coming from Flint, Michigan." "What were you doing in Flint?" "I was speaking at the Mid-Michigan Paracon." Uh, he looks at me and he goes, "What were you speaking about?" I said, "Haunted objects." I said, "I'll declare what I have." I said, "Personal items," and the big suitcase in the back is full of haunted objects. Have a good day. Never check my ID, nothing. Just go. So this is Sadie, and Sadie has, like I say, Sadie goes all over the place with me. She's my mainstay. Whenever I travel, she's in one of my suitcases.
So smugglers of contraband, take note. It's a good way to. So I have kind of a technical question for you. So
Sure.
you have a lot of haunted dolls, but why a doll instead of like a haunted bandana? And I only asked that because I had this laying here. Like
Well,
what?
I've got haunted clothes. I
To take
got haunted pieces of clothing, by the way,
you?
just to let you know.
Okay,
People
but
that have died in it, whatever.
but it seems that people or not. people, but entities seem to be attracted to things that are like human shaped. Is that just it's easier for them to manifest
No,
and do their thing, or
I think it's all intent. Everything's vibrational in nature. You know that as well as I do. That's 101 metaphysics. And I believe that everything is energy. So I believe that pieces that become haunted or possessed, there's something with the owner of that piece that's going on. And as a spiritualist, I was taught early, like attracts like. So if you got something like imbalance or you got something bad going on, you can call this stuff in on you. A lot of and I believe that it almost goes down to a DNA level, goes into this energetic level where things can just attach to it, or they can be just like holy relics. They can be venerated, and that energy. People put so much energy into their prayers, into their intents, that it goes and it permeates into the very material, the fabric of the item. So that's why I believe that that's what happens. Now, just because it's a doll, I'll be honest with you. I've got plenty of dolls that people have sent me that have moved, that have gone from one room to another, that sort of thing. But the problem is that I have more other objects that are, I would say, more active than actual dolls. But dolls, I think, are more common because, of course, again, we got the movie about Annabelle, and Lorraine Warren has the original Annabelle, the Raggedy Ann doll. I've seen it, and I think that people have a in. I think people are afraid of it because it's one of those things that it's like, oh, as a child, I love this doll. I love dolls. This gave me comfort. And it's sort of like that horror movie where the thing that gives you comfort, it's like a Stephen King novel. The thing that gives you comfort can turn around and bite you, and I think that's what people freak out about. I really do. But Sadie, I think Sadie is happy being with me because she knows that she's loved. And that's why I think I don't have a lot of problems with any of the objects that I do have uh, in my collection. A lot of people always ask me, geez, do you have activity? Once in a while, I get some banging on one of the foot lockers or the totes that I get in the other house, the old house. When I was getting ready to move and we were really packing everything up, I got some banging uh, that I'd get, and I used to store like I've got like 67, 68 Ouija boards, and I used to store them in my office upstairs, and that used to shake a little bit. But down in the basement, I used to have all my haunted objects stored underneath the stairs, and every so often you get a little shake, rattle, and roll out of there. I mean, I never felt anything bad. Even my wife never felt anything bad with them. And she looks at it like some of these things are beautiful pieces. Some of the jewelry that I have are beautiful pieces that have been sent to me, or I've taken them out of homes where something may have affected it. And before we go on, let me just tell you, I'm not a big devil angel guy. I'm all about energy, and I believe that energy is what really powers spells and hexes and all that energy. It's that focused intent that will go and affect things. And I believe that focused intent is the number one thing that kind of causes haunted objects.
so? Which leads me to a question that I had. What's the first haunted object that you ever encountered on your adventures? Is this something
Uh,
that you like seeked out, or is it something that just kind of stumbled your way one day and you're like,
that's exactly it. That's
what I do
exactly
now?
it. I'm just trying to think. Oh, no, I was just trying to think. I believe I got some coffin nails, some real hand wrought coffin nails. I believe those are the first things that I actually got that were in a location. Uh, the craziest thing, I'll tell you what the craziest thing was. I was called in I was assisting another paranormal team, and we were at a place where the guy, the people are like hearing all this stuff in the house, and there's banging, and We actually went in and I heard all sorts of stuff going on. Footsteps upstairs, there's nobody there, banging on the walls. And when you get a metallic banging on the wall, not just like a hitting wood, it's a ding, it's a sharper sound. That's more psychical. That's something that the old mediums used to, when I was growing up, used to talk about, and that's the type it was. So we go down into the basement, and it's an old earthen floor basement. It's an older section of Buffalo, New York, and there's an old refrigerator down there. And I'm like, oh well, that's got to be giving off all this EMF. That's got to be like, you know, going and seriously contaminating everything. They're getting it in their heads or hallucinating. And then I looked in the darkness. I look on top of it, and I'm going, what is that? It's a human skull. There's a human skull sitting up there. So we did our thing, and then later on, I asked the homeowner, "Where'd you get that skull?" Because I thought at first, I thought it was like a Halloween thing. It was probably one of the best. If it was Halloween thing, it was one of the best repros I've ever seen. She goes, "No, I found it. We were digging a little garden in the backyard. We found it in the garden." So they accidentally exhumed probably a grave. And when I did some digging later on, I found that it was uh, on the march, on the route of the British during the War of 1812 when they burned Buffalo to the ground. And there was a little stand of American militiamen who held on, and they were pretty much massacred there. They were killed there, and they were buried on that site. And that site became a cemetery. And as Buffalo grew and expanded, they moved the cemetery to our forest lawn. Well, working, having experience with National Parks Service and understanding how field graves get dug up and moved and everything. Back then, they probably just took whatever bones they found and put them in like an ossuary and good enough. So they didn't get them all.
Yeah.
This might have been a grave like off on the perimeter or something. So that's what it was. So we called the coroner. We called the police. They picked it up, gave it a coroner, and chances are that's where it was. And the rest of the bodies that were there are in an ossuary in a mass pit at Forest Lawn. But that was a crazy one. That was the first time that I had ever like realized that an object could cause something. The minute we removed the object, everything stopped in the house. There was no negativity. There was nothing that was, no banging, no crazy stuff. So at that point, I started to think to myself, can objects really affect it? I was on another case where there was a special needs child really having problems, couldn't sleep in her bedroom, seeing things. And so I'm a dowser, and I said, I couldn't figure out anything about this room. Was really nice. It was just a little girl's room. Couldn't figure out what was going on. So I had my L rods, and I just said, I set the intent and said out loud, show me what's negative. And I walked around and I went over the top of the bed, and they crossed. And that's a reaction. And I thought, what's going on here? Is there child abuse? What's going on? And before I jumped to any kind of crazy conclusions, I looked underneath the bed, and there were two big boxes, flat boxes, full of old photographs. Pulled them out from underneath the bed, went over to bed with the dowsing rods, no reaction. Went over the boxes of photographs. They both had reactions. They both crossed. So objects can hold onto something, and it can manifest under the right circumstances. So when they moved the boxes out, the little girl never had a problem, went to sleep that night without having an issue. So again, these are things that I learned early on, and that was even before I was collecting. And then all of a sudden, people started coming up to me going, "Well, okay, we've taken this thing out of our house. What do we do with it?" And I'm like, I know Johnny Zaffis real well. I mean, he's like a brother to me. I've learned so much from Johnny, and he's the haunted collector, and he's got his little museum. And I would, if I had something, I'd give it to him. When I saw him, when we were lecturing together, or if we were, I'd send it to them. And then it just got to the point where people were giving me more and more stuff. So I just started keeping it. I would go and buy some cheap Foot Lockers and wrap the stuff up. I would do my intent to clear, which is like my own little ritual. And I put them away for the day that I could go and bring them out. And then the last couple of years, people have asked me to speak on them, and so I get a chance to take them with me. I get a chance to show some stuff off, and I think that people now are a little bit more savvy to what they're buying, and people are a little bit more savvy and being more careful about what they bring in and bring in their home. And I also, and when people, I'll get contacted and people will ask me, well, what do I do? And I'll kind of tell them what to do with it. If it's really bad, I mean, there are there are ways. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I there's only been one piece that I've ever had a problem with, but there are ways of really neutralizing it or properly getting rid of it.
So, let's see. Our friend David Hollander, and David, you and I, we have to talk here um, about some stuff. David is a collector of radionics devices,
Hmm.
and we're talking about doing a show of some of his pieces here at the museum later this year. We should probably retalk timelines, David. So I've been meaning to get a hold of you about that. But David's saying objects retain psychic residues, which
Yep.
I completely agree. And he follows it up with saying they contain their own histories like DNA.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what people don't get. People look at this stuff as one dimensional or two dimensional when they're multidimensional. And you know, yeah, I'm a psychic medium, big deal. I can't fix brakes. Do you know what I mean? People that fix brakes or something that there are people that impress me. Psychic medium, I'm nothing. But I mean, because I believe in energy so much that there are some things that I can hold in my hand or I can just feel it that there's something with it. There's something attached to it. There's something going on with it. And a lot of times, you got to look at the history. You got to try to find the history on everything that you do. And I think the backstories are more fascinating than the actual pieces sometimes. So that's
So
what I love it. But he's right. And when you have that showing, I want to come up and see his stuff. I really do because I know a little bit about it, and that just fascinates me. So David, I'd really want to see it.
it's going to be cool. So Bridget Bell asked us,
Hi,
should
Bridget.
we should we be careful of secondhand items like items from an antique store or garage sale? You got a take on that?
Yeah, you got to be careful with it. I'm
Now
very
you talked about how you cleanse things. Do you
well.
want to? Is there
Yeah,
a way to?
yeah, there is. I'm very careful what I bring home. I mean, first of all, if it's got a good feel to me, I don't have a problem with it. Uh, but sometimes it might. First thing you do, if there's something going on and you brought something in the house, take it out of the house, put it in the garage, put it outside in the shed, and see if anything is going on. That's the first thing that you do. If it stops, it's the object. If it continues, then of course it's something else.
Really,
Now,
where all the sharp like axes are and stuff
oh,
like that? Come on.
hey, if you saw what was in my shed right now, you yeah, it's like a hall of mirrors in there right now. You don't want to go in there.
Cool.
But here's a wedding ring. And when I received that, it had like the worst vibe in the world. Worst vibe in the world. And I had told the people to leave it outside. And they did. And luckily, and that's what they figured out it was. When I got it, I got a bad vibe off of it. It was either a bad marriage or something. I asked them, they didn't really have a whole history behind it. And so what I do to cleanse things, again, a lot of it is when let me just break this down pretty quickly. Is when we start talking about a ritual is nothing more than a stylized prayer. What is a stylized prayer? A stylized prayer is intent, very much intent. It's what you want, it's intercession, it's you're asking questions. How do we work with this? It's focus. 100% focus. So when I take a piece like this, when I take a small piece like this, my focus is to rid anything that is negative, anything that may be attached to it. I don't, and I don't have a problem with it. I mean, but basically, what you're doing with ritual is reinforcing your focused intent. That's what it is. It's very simple. By saging it, by putting it in salt, by putting it, uh, using frankincense with it, by using holy water with it, by using Ogun or Jerusalem oil with it. It's all focused intent. It all does the same thing. But the secret behind it is you've got to believe 100% that it's doing it. Because in all spiritual matters, you work within boundaries. Within those boundaries, you are in total control of everything that comes in, everything that goes on spiritually. So, my belief is that anything that's negative, I will either neutralize it by doing that or cleanse it totally by by doing something like that. The other thing is, and let me show you, I got another piece. This came from Louisville, Kentucky. This was, where are we? This little guy.
Oh, that is horrifying.
It's a primitive piece.
Ah!
Came from Louisville, Kentucky. It was removed from a house by a friend of mine, Bishop Long. He was an exorcist down there. And what was happening was the child, they got this at a flea market or something, and the child, they had it in the room, and they heard the child talking like little kids do, but they heard a second voice when there's nobody else in there. And they took this out, and they figured that this was the guy, that the culprit. Now, he sent me this piece, and it was weird. I'm going to tell you what, this little guy was weird. I felt like, if you get something like exorcists, they feel something in their solar plexus, and that's called the gift of discernment. And that's how they know if there's something, like right off the bat, that there's something wrong. A friend of mine who was an exorcist, he's retired now, always told me that he could just pick up a file of what's going on, or somebody could tell him a story of what's going on, and he could feel that negativity. And I could feel the negativity, right? Something attached to it. Now, we don't know anything really about it, the original providence of it, but we do know the secondary backstory, where it came from. So when I got it, I did the focused intent, and it was a little, the one thing you find out is sometimes you got to do it a couple times, and it just wasn't clearing. It just wasn't clearing. So we have here, and again, I may be an energy guy, but I was brought up Roman Catholic and spiritualist. And there's a guy on the fast track of being a Catholic saint here. His name is Father Baker, and he was probably one of the greatest mediums you ever want to study. Healing and bilocation, and I mean, there's just so much that's attributed to him. So I thought to myself, what would go and help me reinforce my personal intent to clear this little guy? So I went to the Basilica of Our Lady of Victory, and he was a big Our Lady of Victory guy. And, back in the Depression, and, right after the Spanish flu pandemics, he went and built orphanages and hospitals for unwed mother. And I mean, unbelievable what this guy could accomplish. So what I did is I got a blessed Our Lady of Victory medal right from the Basilica, and I prayed with it, and I put my intention in it. And I put it around the little guy's neck on a little thong. It stopped. So I don't, whether or not the energy from a blessed piece will neutralize it, or this piece is reinforcing my belief, my personal belief, that it is now perfectly safe, it's neutralized, it's cleansed. I don't know, and I won't lie to anybody. I don't know. I'm not, I just don't know. But
So,
I can tell you that this thing is, it may look a little creepy, but I don't have any problems with it. And it again, this travels with me, and I think the attitude that you have with the haunted objects, it's like I'm not here to exploit them.
Yeah.
I'm here to show them. I'm here to educate with them, and I'm here, and I do, and it's sort of like running with the bulls. Man, it's a lot of fun to do, but you better respect those damn horns. You
Right.
better respect what you're doing, or else you get the horn to the back. But yeah, this he's a little cutie.
So David is chiming in saying that guy is not cleared. And also he said Scaresville, Ohio. And I thought that was kind of funny. But we have a question here from Melvin. It was kind of from before. Does magic and energy go hand to hand to a certain degree? And
It is. It is 100%. It is, and I believe, uh, I mean, I have friends in the craft. I have friends in hoodoo and voodoo. I have friends, in all sorts of sects and beliefs, and I believe energy works hand in hand with it. Belief. So you believe, so it becomes. And that's all energy. That's all you're putting your intent into it. Now, if you believe in a deity, I mean, I'm a pretty much like an energy guy, so my deity is pretty much, when we die, I'm just going to be part of, the big collective or whatever you want to call it, of energy. That's what I want. So, but if you believe in a deity and you're focusing and you're working with that deity in order to conduct magic, to conduct that spell, to work with it, that's working with your energy and the energy of an intelligent spirit entity, belief, whatever. Because I believe that while I don't believe in ghosts per se or spirits per se, I believe that the energetic memories, the energetic personalities of humans carry on. And I believe that this all feeds into your belief in, uh, intercession of saints, the intercession and asking of help. When you do a sacrifice, when you do a ritual sacrifice, what are you doing? You're giving of yourself. You're not just sacrificing something. You're giving of yourself in this ritual. What is that doing? You're meshing the energies together. You're meshing the esoteric ethers, the energy in the ethers. They come down. You're meshing it. So yeah, I believe they work hand in hand, and I believe that's how magic really works.
I would agree with most of the points that you've put there, Tim. So what's next? What's the next object?
You're funny. well, I got a well, I got a small piece. Here's a small piece. This is the Seal of Solomon, and this is actually from Europe, and it was there was a teenager, goth kid, that like used this in his rituals and stuff. And after he moved out, the parents had residue in the house. Negative residue stuff was going on, whether it attracts negativity or whatever. And they found this little guy in there, and he actually, you see that? He's actually a demonologist. He's a lay demonologist that was trained at the Vatican, but he's not. He doesn't do exorcisms. He does, he does work on deliverances on properties and exorcisms on properties. And he sent me that for my collection. And he said that after they removed it, everything kind of quieted down. But I've got some really, it's funny because I've got some jewelry here that my friends are like, and my wife was like, listen, if you ever take it out of the case, I'd wear that. I was like, I don't know if I'd wear it. It's it's okay, but I don't know how it would be out there in the general public collecting. It's sort of like a funnel. I think some of these things like collect energy as they go. But for the most part, I don't have problems with it. But everything isn't like dark. I've got crosses. I've got a cross from a, a, a an exorcist from Italy that actually passed, and this is the demonology. He was a Scottish guy, and he actually sent that to me. And it was used in 11 sanctioned exorcisms, and I don't know how many unsanctioned exorcisms. So when I got that, that had a good feel to it, and I
So,
didn't. And pardon?
do you have it with you?
I don't have. I got it packed away, but I will tell you that it was. I'll get it for you. Something when I come and listen, Steve. When I bring my stuff to your shop to the museum, and we're gonna do something.
We're
Uh,
gonna do and tell here sometime.
oh yes, yes, I definitely want to do that for you, and we'll do it as a fundraiser for you. You
All
know,
right,
I
sounds
love
good.
that. I think that's great. I'll bring that with me. But I do have this, which is a brass cross.
Ah,
There we go, Steve.
cut it out.
But this actually came from a monastery. A monk. Uh, they often considered certain clergy living saints, and this came from one such person that uh, he used to, in his room, he used to kneel and he used to pray to this. So when he passed away, uh, it was given to a good friend of his. And one night, another monk woke up in the middle of the night and he saw the spectral outline of his friend kneeling in front of this cross. And he got freaked with it. So he gave it to the abbot. And this sat in the abbot's office until they closed the actual monastery itself and they moved it. So this is a beautiful little piece. And it reminds me that everything that's out there is not always negative. Sometimes the stuff is positive, and it holds that stuff, that holds that love, that and veneration that people have.
So we just got a comment from my friend Joe. He says, "Put your mask on," and I think we can proceed. Just having some fun, right?
You look good, man. You look good. I'm telling you.
It's a little bit of the Billy the Kid zone there. Um. Oh, okay. So wow, we got a pretty long question here from Bridget Bell. Is it possible that people have so much negative energy inside themselves that they make themselves put the negative energy in the objects rather than the energy was already there? And there was a bit of
Absolutely.
her ex-husband there, and let's see, uh, could barely interact with anything, and he was scared of everything he came in contact with. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You gotta, you know, people don't realize how we can affect things. And it I'll go and I'll take this small, this small cask that I have, and I will be so negative, and it sits on my desk constantly. I think this can go and hold the energy. I believe it. I believe it'll hold the energy. So this negative piece, under the right circumstances of the right person, place, and thing, those are the things that we always look for, can activate that negative energy. And if a person is that negative, it will touch so much. I feel that something that it's almost like, I'll be honest with you, I've been in places, in historic places that have had massacres within walls. Within walls, you can walk in there to this day. Maybe it was the early 1800s or late 1700s or whatever, and you can walk in there today and you can feel it. You can feel that negativity. But if it's right, if you get the right person, right place, and you're the right time, you can feel it. And people who are not really sensitive can feel it too. So that pain, that emotional outburst, I believe, vibrationally permeates into the building materials, especially if it's natural building materials around whatever it happened, wherever it happened, especially like stone walls and stuff. Fort Niagara. I used to be a docent there, and there are some nights that you could be there and you could feel in some of the rooms the pain, and it's a weird feeling, but I don't believe it's intelligent. I believe it's residual. I believe that it just happens. It just happens sometimes.
It's just kind of the way that the world we live in is designed a bit.
Yeah, I believe it's natural. So, I mean, a lot of people. I learned this as a kid. I mean, I first was introduced into the Lilydale Assembly in 1972. I was like 9 or 10 years old. And the first thing that they tell you is that there's nothing paranormal in the world. Everything is normal. There is nothing supernatural in the world. It's all natural. Science just hasn't caught up with it. And excuse me, I believe that. I still believe that to this day. I believe that that's one of the core principles that I live by. And I believe there's so much that we don't know out there. There's so much that we take for granted. There's so much that we can harness to make ourselves better and to heal ourselves, to heal others. That's why I mean I healing fascinates me. Uh the absentee healing, the candle magic, all that stuff that fascinates me. Why is that? Because I don't believe sometimes that I don't believe it's anything that isn't natural, isn't meant for us to use.
Yeah, I agree. So Bridget has a topical question here, and I have kind of a take on this myself. What kind of energy do you believe will be associated with the objects associated with the coronavirus, such as like the mask?
I believe that I'm going to be honest with you. Worked in a hospital, I worked for environmental services part time. I cleaned and prepped ORs, surgical suites, infectious. Hey, I'll be honest with you. Infectious rooms, hazardous rooms, TB, tuberculosis, HIV rooms. I've cleaned the morgue, pathology. And I'm going to be honest with you. I believe that the masks, the general masks that we use, unless we are that fearful of what's going on internally, that we are just insanely fearful, I don't believe anything will happen. The one thing that I think that will, kind of reside, that is especially like the old people that are, they're still cognitive, but they're on the downhill slide to passing, to the change called death. I believe that sometimes that energy, that sorrow of them not being able to have, especially early on, that closure with their loved ones. I believe that will hold into those rooms. That may hold on to anything. It could be a mattress on a bed. It could be the actual walls itself. I'm a firm believer that that's what we may be seeing in maybe a year or so.
Okay. Um, I see as the mask as a protection item, so I would have to assume that it would stay that way.
hmm I,
Uh,
I'm I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in that because if something is meant for protection, it's going to protect, and that's your thinking on it. It's going to protect me. So if you're putting that out there, it's going to hold into the actual material of the mask.
so let's see. L.A. Raber says, "Why are spirit messages always positive?" And
They're
then
not always positive, believe me.
follows up, but they are not though. And L.A. Raber says, my personal experiences is that I've had some spirit messages that were absolutely not positive whatsoever, completely devastating and cruel. But I think a lot of times the spirit message, a lot of times you're getting these from entities that have crossed beyond and they really don't have a lot of hangups with what's going on in the physical world that we're in right now.
Mhm.
So I think that would be why a lot of the messages that you would get wouldn't necessarily be, like not positive. But
Well,
then I have limited experience.
well, the big thing is they're not. I'm going to be honest with you. It depends on, you have to judge the person. You got to judge the client whether they can handle some of these messages or not. Uh,
That's very true too.
I mean, you really do. I mean, because what happens is, if you you have, I teach my students to be so careful with how they phrase things, because of the fact that you can create a false self-fulfilling prophecy, and you can create fear, and you can damage that individual with your words. People don't realize the ramifications of the what you tell person. So uh, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I mean, I've had everything from tell this person that they've got a serious illness, which I won't come out. I will rephrase that into like go see your doctor or whatever. I won't go into the whole thing. Uh, if there's a death coming up, I will say there's a trail of tears that's around you, which means there may be a serious illness or death, and you have to be very careful the way you say it. A lot of Raymond Raymond Buckland, I love the guy because he would say, "You can't be a fuzzy bunny your whole life. You gotta go and you gotta shit or get off the pot, basically." And
Right.
he, I agree with him. I agree with him. But a lot of the schools where these people are going to, they're just, they're pablum feeding a lot of positivity in the people. Now, even my mentor always said, when you're working with a client, it can be the most devastating message ever, but always put a positive ending to it so that the person has hope. You're giving them hope, because what happens in messages is that I'm only reading what's going on right at that moment. This person, you can usually leave and like always make a right. Well, one day they make a left, they can change the whole dynamics. That's the way I always tell my students. That's how how much of a razor's edge readings are. So you got to be careful. You got to be very, very careful. Uh, Now, really, that was a really good take on there. You never hear that in public forums. Uh, Gallery work, you try never to do that. What I tell people is this: come and see me after the gallery. Come and see me after the gallery. Don't. I mean, I'll give them something and I'll say, listen, I want to. Let's talk afterwards. Okay, come and see me. I'll expand on what I got, and that way it's not in the public. And that's two different reasons I do that. First, I don't want to freak people out, but secondly, I don't want to go and say something embarrassing, because one time I had two couples that came to a gallery, and believe me, they one of each of the partners were actually kind of cheating on the other one, and they were all friends. And spirit is like screaming in my head, you got to tell them this is going to be detrimental. Their kids are going they're going to be found out. Don't I can't go and I can't tell that. So you don't want to do that and embarrass people in front of other people. And that comes from a lot of decorum that I've picked up by serving spiritualist churches. So I try to tend to hold off, but I always will. If there's something bad or if there's something negative, I won't back away from it. I tell them to come and talk to me later on. And a lot of people don't, because what pisses me off is a lot of these mediums go to these galleries. I mean, I work everything from 20 people to over 160 people in a gallery. I will stay there. If I don't give you a message, I will stay in that gallery for 2 hours, 3 hours, talk to people, give them mini readings, expand upon something that I may have said to them, because of the fact that I can't. It's my job to do it, but a lot of people don't. They cut and run. They cut and run. They've got something else to do, and that's not the way I was brought up, and that's not the way I work. So it's everybody to each their own, I guess.
So I got kind of a follow up on that for you, because you not only perform but you also receive, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the has anybody zinged you really hard?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were in a class. We were in a class. We're taking advanced mediumship at Lilydale, and it was so intensive. It was the greatest class in the world. It was so intensive, man. You had books in the morning. You broke for lunch. You did one-on-one readings. Then you did practice gallery reading, and then you did the 6 o'clock public reading at the Stump. That was every day for 5 days. It was crazy. This girl came up to me. she just ripped me bare. Ripped me bare. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. And you know, it's humbling, and it's good because it keeps you humble. It does. It keeps you humble. But a lot of it, what we see now in the in your storefront psychic readings and stuff, you have to really kind of watch it. It's the same thing. Like uh, a lot of readers don't want to use tarot or whatever, or they want to use tarot. They don't want to do the psychic one-on-one because with tarot, you're not responsible for
Yeah.
the meaning. Where
I
I'm sitting there and I'm talking and it's coming through and I'm telling you. So a lot of people find it's a lot more comfortable for them because they can say, "I'm not saying it. This is what the cards say."
Yeah. Yeah. I always laugh because probably about 25 years ago, I went to the spiritualist church in Euclid, Ohio, and I just thought it'd be funny, pay the $5, see the show, and the warm-up act wasn't very good. But then the headliner, who kind of reminded me of the lady from Poltergeist, she rolls up to me and she looks at me and she says, "Oh, there's a woman behind you. She has one leg. She died last year at 99 before she was 100. She's speaking a Nordic language. She wants me to let you know that, you guys are she's always there with you." And of course, that was my Swedish grandmother who died with one leg at 99. And that's what tore me from like my complete and obnoxious atheist like zone to be in. So I think that's pretty fun. So let's see here. Bridget Bell says that oh yes. So Kelvin had a comment here. So we had an experience last year where we had a movie night, and probably because of what happened with Kelvin, I'm probably not going to do it because he's asking when I went. Well, he says when I went to your museum last Walpurgis knocked, I got dizzy in the place. He took me to the hospital that same day. I told the doctors I got sick at the movie theater because the staff might think I'm crazy. Question: am I sensitive to energies or magic in general? And one thing that I've noticed here is I've kind of stopped having things like movie nights here because they're passive things, and you're sitting there and you're not really engaging with, like, all you're doing is like engaging with the narrative that's coming at you. You're
Right.
not, you don't have any kind of defenses up to anything because you're not paying attention to that. Workshops and lectures, I feel, are a completely kind of different animal because you're
They're
engaged.
focused. People are engaged. They're focused in on it. But you got to remember with movies, it's a suspension of reality.
Yeah.
So now you no longer are an observer. If you're doing it properly, you're drawn into the actual movie itself. So that opens you up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Calvin, yeah, I would say that you're probably, first of all, we're all clairsentient to different degrees, but you're probably a little bit more fine tuned than most people. So you're in a high energy location, opened yourself up, and got swept over. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that could happen. That can
Yeah,
happen.
Bell says that it happened to her here. Let's see. Um, uh, this house has many hearts, says L.A. Raver. Uh, Bridget says the energy at the Buckle Museum can be overwhelming and give a
Yes,
headache.
yes, it can. When I was there this last time, I walked in and went, "Oh!" I felt like I got hit with a wave when I walked in. It was so great. It took me a couple minutes to kind of just like get used to it. But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm
it's so much up there. So
like, I feel like the energy in here just kind of like is the wind beneath my wings.
it's
Um,
true though. That's true though.
sure, if I just walked into it, how much it would be. Like what my zone would be. So we're getting here to about the 1 hour mark.
Already?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
the fun thing about this stuff is you just start yammering away and then it just keeps going. So I think we should probably wrap it up here in a couple minutes unless anybody has some questions that they want to get out to us here. So how about one more piece? Okay, anything
Let
you
me
want to?
let me bring out two more pieces.
All right.
These, let me see if we can get a better picture, are African nail effigies. And
Oh,
what they are is these are private altar pieces that are actually carved in the uh, effigy of a deity. And whenever somebody is giving you a hard time, what you'll do is drive a nail, and you can see like this one here, this one here. You can see all the nails that were driven into him, and the spirit goes out and does, takes care of the situation. This one has all sorts of little bags on it. These are all offering bags that have been nailed onto it. And what's neat about it is that when these are carved, there's a ritual, they say, that brings the spirit into the piece. And you'll see right here that's shiny. This is a small hole and it's hollowed out, and there's herbs that are put in there. And then there's either a piece of glass or a piece of mica that's sealed in there with either like tar or sap or whatever. And they say the spirit looks through this little this little that little glass window. So the spirit is always in here. So these are beautiful pieces. I have 3 of these, and these. I got to tell you what, these, when I got these, the vibe was unreal. The
yeah.
vibe was unreal.
So you know what you're gonna have to do when you're done with that? You know how constantly they're saying, "Hey, you gotta wash your hands." Oh my gosh, you've got to wash your hands. Those are so when you got them, the vibes were out of control. What are the vibes like now? Because I'm getting in the zone here just looking at it and like
for
not
me, for me,
positive way.
the vibe is really great. I own them. I respect them. I only bring them out, for a showpiece, and the rest of the time, I do I will go and I will give them a little gift when I have my cabinets and everything all set up down here in my little museum down here. I will be giving them like fresh fruit and little bits of water and little things of that nature, just as an offering. And it's not so much the actual giving of the actual piece, but it's the intention of it. I have one more piece if we have time.
Yeah, because David's here telling you to put it back. So
Well, this is a rare piece.
Bridget,
These never usually get taken out of families. They're never usually taken out.
yeah.
This is a tar doll made in North Carolina, and you can see the face is that of a reptile. This is Appalachian hoodoo, and this little girl is actually the actual hair on it is is human hair, and they're made by mothers and given to daughters before they're married. And the spirit of this reptile protects the daughter from being abused by the husband. And these are usually passed down from generation to generation. I actually got this by accident, and uh, I got it, and I just love it. But I put it. I like keeping them. I like keeping her in a box. I don't want anybody to handle her because I think she's just, first of all, she's pretty fragile and unique, but also the fact that I don't want anybody handling her because I feel that this little piece here may have some power to it. I matter of fact, the hair on my arms raises every time I pick up the box. I've got dolls made out of Peruvian mummy wrap. I've got original 1940s voodoo dolls and that sort of thing. But this little girl here is like one of my prized possessions, and she's beautiful.
How'd you get that?
It was to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I saw it for sale online.
Oh, all right.
I thought it was an unusual piece,
Yeah.
and it was funny because I got it like, holy crap, this has got like a crazy feel to it. It's good, but it's crazy. And I posted it on Facebook. I got all these messages from people from that are into Appalachian hoodoo, and they went and they told me all about it, and
Oh,
I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And they were all like, respect that. You got to respect that because that's got power. That is something that should never have been left. Should never have, like, I just gotta bang someplace. I jump when stuff like that happens. That was pretty funny. In a minute. But you have to go and you have to respect that. It's one of those things that they all said the same thing. Be very careful with it, and it should never. It should always have stayed right in with that family. How old is it? They estimated this doll was probably made in the 1940s, and it's just now it's just it's a beautiful piece, and I I I love I love all my stuff. I really do. I have a a great respect for this stuff, and that's why I don't think I have a problem with it because I know a couple collectors that they get pieces and it just gets crazy in their house. You know, me, I
yeah.
get a piece, I bring it in, do my thing to it, and I pack it up and I respect it and I love them, and so I never have a problem.
Well, I always think about the time that, well, when Raymond Buckland handed me the infamous Demon in the Box, and
I
Tony had,
love that. I love that box. That is great.
yeah, yeah. Well, so when it came to us, our he had given it to Tony beforehand, and then Tony had brought it, and this was the day that I met Buckland. And it's just funny, like one of the first things he ever said to me was handing the box to me, being like, "Steven, this is your problem now." I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." So I
I
drove
know
home.
there's a lot of fakes on the market. You got to watch those because I've been offered a few of them.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
yeah. Well, it's fun because I'll have psychics in here, and they'll be like, "Oh, there's nothing going on with that," and then 5 minutes later, they're like, ask me if like they can use the restroom because they don't feel very good,
Yeah,
and
yeah. No,
just vomit because of it once. I
I
don't know.
believe that.
Weird vibes.
When I was there, it was funny. The first time I saw it, and you were telling me the story behind it, I was like, "This is fascinating." The last time I saw it, it was really crazy interesting. I was just, I was drawn to it. And there was a little kid. Remember the little kid that was with me?
Yeah,
Well, he wasn't with me. He had 1,001 questions. His father brought him, you know,
yeah.
and he was just like this. And whatever it was just attracted him so much.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's really the mystery of the piece, and it's sometimes I think about it as like Schrodinger's demon because is it still in there? Is it not? You never know until we open it, right? But
to be honest with you, there are some things that I push my friends love it because they tell me I poke the devil too much if I go on a paranormal investigation or whatever. I'm not afraid to provoke. Not afraid to provoke at all. Because I'm there for a reason. I'm there to get some kind of response to figure out what the heck's going on. And you know what? I got to tell you, you know, so there are some things that discretion is the better part of valor, and there are some things when you feel it, it's like you got to stop. You just stop. You don't do it. Uh, I've been in some nasty locations, and I'm not afraid to provoke, but I've been in some places that are like, no, there's something negative here. There's something residual. There's something intelligent that I don't understand. It's not making sense in my head. It's not making sense in the solar plexus. We're going to leave you alone.
yeah, I agree. So there's one last thing I want to show you here, and this was something that a artist sent me the other day, and I've been laughing about it ever since. Cleveland After Dark, a psychic rock phenomenon,
I
and
love it.
couple days after Christmas of 1969. And what this has really made me do is sit there and think to myself, boy, do I miss music live. concerts. I miss gathering with my friends. And that's one of the reasons why I asked you on here. A lot of people are like, "Thank you, Stephen, for like doing this," and I'm like, "Well, thank you for tuning in." It's pretty much, I don't have a lot of structure in my life right now, so having a reason to come here to the museum and talk to someone is pretty fantastic. So I really appreciate you coming in here, Tim. It looks like we have one comment here. Pedro, I am peak day only what the do. Okay, I'm not really sure what he was saying there. So, Tim, thank you so much for coming in and sharing some of your wisdom, your stories with us. And if you want to hold on just for a second, I want to talk to you a little bit when I close this out.
You
But
got it, baby. You got it, baby. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I mean, listen, again, people who have not been to that museum have got to go. They've got to go. They've got to see it. It's an amazing place. Knowing Ray Buckland personally, it's a pilgrimage for me. And Steve, what you're doing for the community, the magic community, all the crafts, all the traditions, all this, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is holding on and sharing something important. We live in a society that's torn apart. Everything is plastic, everything is impertinent, everything just gets bulldozed under. What you're doing is truly saving the mythology of not just the craft and everything, but a guy by the name of Buckland who is fantastic and a part of our own history, our own journey. Those of us that were brought up with metaphysics. So you know what, the honor's mine for being there, and we gotta set a date. We gotta check around, and I'd love to come out to the museum and bring some of my stuff.
we'd really love that. So thank you very much. So we have a couple things coming up next week. Monday at 2 p.m. our time here, and then I think it's 11 a.m. California time. I'm going to be speaking with Clint Marsh and Fiddler's Green Zine. If you're familiar with Fiddler's Green, I sell it here in the gift shop. It really is one of the coolest, most beautiful zines that you're going to see out there. And it's going to be a lot of fun to talk to Clint because right now it is stay at home zine fest month because let's face it, you can't go out and be with the world. And then Wednesday, I haven't made a graphic for it yet. I'm going to be speaking with Heather Green, who wrote a great book about witchcraft and the film. And I just got turned on to a couple cool witch films I want to talk to her about. And then I think next Friday, I'm going to try to see if we could get Tony, my partner in the museum, to come on, and maybe we could do kind of a Ask Me Anything kind of thing where people could ask us questions about operating a place like this. Maybe I could get Jillian involved as that. And here's Tony with the legendary Oberon Zell. So that's what we got coming up. If you have any ideas for anything, let me know. I really appreciate everybody that pops on here and sharing. Joe, Sabelle, it's you guys are usuals, or regulars, so it's pretty cool. I've been trying to come up with a way to end this. Jerry Springer, good to yourself and each other. But I think the best thing that I could come up so far is stay witchy, my friends. So, stay witchy.